Hey guys, it's Jenna Elfman from Fear the Walking Dead. I play Laura. No, I play Naomi. No, I play June. I play June on Fear the Walking Dead. And you're listening to the Fear the Walking Dead talk through on Talk Through Media.
That was awesome.
Hey, I'm Lindsley Register, and I play Laura on The Walking Dead. You're listening to The Walking Dead talk through on Talk Through Media.
Hey survivors, welcome to episode 74 of Fear the Walking Dead Talk Through. I'm Kyle.
I'm Brian.
And I'm LT.
And we'll be covering Fear the Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 7, Damage from the Inside, and we will also be covering The Walking Dead World Beyond, Season 1, Episode 8, The Sky is a Graveyard. But before we get started, we do have additional feedback for Fear the Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 6, Bury Her Next to Jasper's Leg, and that comes from Erin from the internet. And I'll just go ahead and continue with this. And she goes on and says, sorry you can't stick around, Brian, for this awesome episode, but glad you dropped by for a bit. Smiley face.
I may actually stay around for the bulk of this one, if not all of it. So we'll see.
No, but we're happy for that for sure. When she goes on, she's like, lending that hand Jenny no longer has, I see.
I made that rating almost on the fly, hand sandwiches last week. It just sounded perfect, so that's what I went with.
There you go.
What, Renee? Seriously, not a single awesome sauce? I guess it is too hard to pick through probably with an episode this great. Ha. We've only had a few episodes, but so far I would agree, LT, this has been a good watch season. There's no Madison so far, so I wouldn't say it's the best season, but it's been better than the last two for sure. Way to ruin the magic, LT. I love your sciencing for the fire, but also now I'm like, if they were covered in oil and oil plus heat makes fire, then everybody should be toasted marshmallows by now. Ha. If illness mattered, Kyle, then Morgan should have been dead the first episode of the season.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, he takes a licking and keeps on ticking. LOL, knowing how they write Morgan Sue, he'll probably be at John's cabin and go, oh, this is yours? It's nice. And John's cabin will be conveniently like half a day's walk from where they need to be next. It's probably just over the hill from Lawton because, you know, this map is only 5 miles big. Ha. Yeah, agreed with that. Texas is the smallest state in this realm.
It's Texas, Rhode Island.
We definitely see that this episode.
Yep. And then last, she goes, this was the weakest episode of the season so far, she was quoting. Big shock face. You hurt me with that one, LT.
Well, just one of the many services I offer.
All right. Well, thank you, Aaron. That was all the feedback from last week's episode. So let's go into this week. And this week it's Fear the Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 7, titled Damage from the Inside. It was written by Jacob Pinion and directed by Tawnia McKiernan.
I think that's Tawnia.
Tawnia.
Yeah. Actually, both of those names are kind of tongue twisters. Jacob Pinion, like opinion. That's what if his initial was Jacob Pinion. Anyway, sorry, Jacob.
Description is when Dakota goes missing, Strand sends Alicia and Charlie on a search and rescue mission to find her. Unlikely ally proves a new possibility of escape from Virginia. Yeah. Okay. Our ratings. Do you want to go for your first one, LT?
I shall. I gave it 7.8 out of 10 fonts of sisterly love.
I gave this a lower rating than I have so far this season. 7.1 Buck's Landing. Meh.
Yeah, and this one, my rating's not too high on it, and initially I liked it, and then I kind of thought about it, and then I'll give them credit. I listened to Jason and Lucy on the Walking Dead cast, and I went, yeah, they kind of make some points here. So my rating is influenced by that, but I always try to give credit when that happens. I don't. There are some podcasters that want to like stay in a bubble and only like form their opinions based on their own thoughts, and I look at it the opposite way. I want to form the best opinion based on everything I can collect from everything, including myself. So that's how I roll. But anyway, not the best episode. It had certain good points in it, but there were some massive holes, that you just couldn't really look away from. So I'm going to give it a 7.5 taxidermied walkers.
Okay. Well, that's
I'm the high guy this time.
All right. Well, that was our ratings for this episode, and let's go into our listenings ratings. We just had a few this week, and our first one, LT, you want to take it?
Well, we only actually got one. Let's be realistic here.
Well, okay. Yeah, because I was about to say I'll go into that, but LT, give us our one actual numbered rating.
Okay, Glennis from Toronto gives it a 9 out of 10, eyes wide shut.
All right, well, our next listener's rating it comes from Aaron from the internet, and not so much of his actual number, but she says boring.
Boring. When I saw that in the feedback, I just went boring.
Oh, well, I mean, not too far off her worded rating, but anyways, well, she continues on. She says, I don't know how to rate this episode anything other than what I said above. To its credit, there were like a few good moments, but other than that, I would say this challenge is for the worst episode of the season and definitely wins most boring outside of the premiere episode. Frowny face. I place the fault of this rating on the handling of Alicia. As Dieta has said, that really needs to do better with her because she honestly spent this whole episode just standing around except for the few moments when she had a nice speech scene.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Aaron. The utilization this half season of Alicia Debnam-Carey leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, she was only in that one episode before this, and now she's like really only she wasn't. It wasn't even really an Alicia episode. It was more like she was probably the lead, but it was much more of an ensemble kind of thing. She shared the spotlight with a lot of other characters, so
compared to the other episodes that we've gotten their picture on the title card.
Yeah.
She didn't do nearly as much as any of the other ones have.
When I saw her weapon in the title card, I was like, oh, she's going to be, going out there killing a lot. And that wasn't what we really got this time.
Yeah. No.
So.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was it for our listeners' ratings. So let's go into Awesome Sauce. All right, Glennis from Toronto, she says, Fear the Walking Dead has been killing it with providing radically different walkers this season. The modified walkers with horns and snazzy material, and the walker with the popped-out eye that Alicia killed. The walkers look like a weird cult going to their regular meeting. What a nice heartwarming moment when Morgan, after dispatching those walkers, then looked up to see Alicia, and the hug and Morgan's kills are always awesome. Well, he's got the cool new weapon, so they better be awesome. I didn't put anything or add sad or awe or anything like that, but yeah, it was fun to see like Alicia, like seeing Morgan for the first time. Just, we we'll go into it later. It's just like how much time has passed, we don't know, but we just assume that, these guys have not seen each other since they got split up.
Well, not only that, she thought he was dead. And so that was something that so much time had passed. I had forgotten that she didn't know that he was alive.
Yeah.
And it made me think, well, who else doesn't know he's alive?
Well, it's obvious that the people that know aren't spreading it around.
Right.
Yeah. It was a really good scene though. Like, at least we get, finally getting to see Alicia in something.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, that was Glynis. Thank you. LT, you want to take our...
Okay. Aaron from the internet says, I did like Alicia's bitterness towards Strand for continuity. We've been out here for what now? 6 weeks? And what has he done for us? Nothing. And that's exactly what we're going to do for him. And I, of course, loved her standing up to Morgan Sue. The most awesome sauce, however, I think, has to go to Charlie, as she's the only one who's honestly did anything productive this episode.
Well, she mostly hid.
Yeah, and she's stayed outside
Yeah,
or like a big chunk of it before she.
Yes, I have some Charlie commentary later on.
All right. Well, that was all of our listeners' awesome sauce. All right, let's go into our awesome sauce. LT, you're first.
Okay, one of the things I really thought was cool this episode was the way they handled the lodge. It definitely had that old school creepy movie vibe going on. The way they approached it, and it, looked kind of all battered and beat up. And when Alicia got inside, all the taxidermied heads, and it was dark, and the way they handled the lighting, really liked that because, again, it's very much the classic horror movie genre setting. It didn't necessarily play out, but this is awesome, so this is what I'm going with for that. Another bit of awesome sauce, and we were kidding about it before we started recording, Strand carries a saw. So, when he runs into a tree blocking the road, they have saws. One of the things that I've really enjoyed is now we got our Fear the Walking Dead teen besties going with Dakota and Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they will redeem my faith in anyone younger than 18 after having to sit through World Beyond. But I digress. And Kyle's going to talk about it more, and I'm just going to go ahead and say now that I agree with what he's going to say.
Well, so if Dakota and Charlie going to be Fear teen besties,
yes, they're going to be, going to the bathroom together and talking about boys. And
well, my question is, whose brother are they going to kill?
I don't know, but we have to worry about.
Well, maybe they'll kill Jenny.
Well, I don't know. I still have some mixed reservations about Dakota, but like you said, since she's into sibling side, Charlie may be the person for the job.
There's a word.
Yep. Well, no. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see for sure.
We'll have to wait and see.
Couldn't get any inkling of what's to come really after this episode. All right. Well, then I'll go into my awesome sauce, and I mean, I have to agree with Glynis, and it's like the walkers were definitely pretty cool again. So far this season, it's like they're just thinking out of the box or something, or just like, hey, we've got to do some fun things with the walkers. They can't just be just the normal whatevers. So it was cool to see them do, when like the weird, horns and like, all that kind of stuff. Cause at the end scene, that was definitely really kind of cool for like, just, since this is kind of like a seemingly trying to be like a horror movie-ish kind of like style or feel. But the only thing though is like, I have trouble keeping my sauces into the same place because I really loved that part of it. But then it made the question of like, Ed playing dress up with them and, saying like that's going to scare people away. And it's kind of like, I kind of was like, maybe new survivors, which maybe people that are just like on their own by themselves, that'd be like, oh, that's creepy. But I just feel like with our group and with Jenny, like people, like they've been living this reality for so long that it would almost kind of be like, oh, that's weird. We've never seen one of those. Like, why is this all, got horns on it?
It's a walker with antlers.
With antlers. And then, it'd be like, okay, well, I feel like that would intrigue them more about like, well, who's doing this? Like, let's go find out, instead of being like, oh, that's going to actually keep people away.
Yeah, because what's scarier, a zombie or a zombie with horns? I mean, they're still zombies.
Or like leather patches, like, like on their skin. Like,
yeah, I guess the new zombie couture out of Milan is fur patches.
It is a stylish walker.
Fashion season walkers.
New York Fashion Week.
Yep.
Do the zombie walk on the catwalk.
And then thanks, like for mentioning that, like LT was just like, and I think everybody, it's like I have to give my awesome sauce to Alicia just because it was just so. It was really enjoyable seeing her in the episode, and it's just like I really wish we had more of her this season. And it's like we literally had like what season or episode 2 was she
episode 2 and episode 7.
Yeah, and so it's like we got her in episode 2. Her and Strand. It was kind of like I guess that was their episode. But then it was just like, okay, here she is. We know Alicia. We know the actress. Like we know that like some of the better scenes in all of Fear have been, with Alicia in part of it. And this just, I don't know. It's like, I just felt like, she was kind of being the Alicia of old, even though the episode wasn't the great, compared, cause like, I just felt more like, okay, Alicia, oh, she's, this is the badass that we've always like, wanted and known, and they messed it up so much during season 4 and 5 that
I don't 100% agree with that point, but we'll get into it later.
Okay. I feel like that she's come around a lot more this season, and we only got 2 episodes of her. That season 4 and 5, like especially going to season 5, it was just like, I don't know, they did what they did just because of like what the plot and making her struggle and like all that stuff.
Well, yeah, but we'll get into it later because I'll explain it because I have her in my weak sauce for the same reasons that you have her in your awesome sauce. So,
well, we got her. I just don't think we got enough of her.
Well.
I gave her awesome because of like being in the episode.
She was awesome a lot of season 4 and 5 though. Like that's where I take exception to you. Like think about that one episode where she's like with the walkers coming around the treehouse and she killed so many that it screwed her up. But it was before she got screwed up. That was awesome, right? And she had a lot of moments, especially in the first half of season 4, that were also awesome. So I think you have to bring up when you say season 4 and 5, it's parts of season 4 and parts of season 5, not all of it.
Right. That's what I the first half of season 4 was definitely better Alicia than the last half. And then, it's just like, the word they put her in by the time we ended season 5, like I felt like that really just ruined a lot of stuff. And so getting her back, that's kind of where I was going with that.
Yeah. Okay. I get up.
All right. Well, that was all I have. And Brian, you have some awesome?
Yeah, I do. I liked the use of the guy that plays Ed. His name is Raphael Sbarge, I think is how you say his name. And he always plays these like near serial killer types. That's where I always see him playing. I know he's played other characters, but I'm not sure if he's typecast in that kind of role or just likes to play them, but he's always good in those roles. Like I remember one example, this isn't really serial killer type, but he was in Star Trek Voyager, and he was a Maquis who ended up being like the like double agent or like collaborating with the Kazon, if you recall. And that's one example, but I always see him playing these kind of like tortured killer type or tortured, bad guy types, but not really bad, like misguided kind of thing. And this is an example of that, but he fits into this like group of actors that I was like thinking of it. I put it into like, the casting agents, like looking at this role, and he's like, we need an almost serial killer type, but not really. Who can we get? Brad Dourif? Oh no, he's too old. What about that guy from X-Files? Doug Hutchinson, he played Eugene Toombs, the guy who could squeeze into any space. Let's see if he's available. Oh, who else can we get? What about that Raphael Sbarge guy? So anyway, my point being is that he plays these roles and he's usually really good at them. And I thought that we haven't had a character like this except for that crazy filthy woman, whatever her name Martha was.
Yeah, Martha's a truck stop woman.
Yeah, except in her case, she was just batshit crazy, right? There was no like torture in her. She just like went, completely off the rails. This guy, like throughout the episode, you're kind of like, is he a bad guy? Is he a really bad guy? Is he a good guy? Is he are you mislabeling him? Is he good? Is he bad? Is he like all the way through? You're kind of, changing your opinion of the guy as he's going on. Mm-hmm. So yep. I liked what they did with him, but there are parts of that whole story that don't exactly work for me. So I liked it, but there were things that I didn't like about it. So, so much, in fact, I don't know if I'll remember to say everything in my week sauce or not. I did like the Morgan Alicia reunion. I thought that was good. And I didn't expect Alicia to bargain with Virginia. That was surprising to me. I thought it made sense, but at the same time, I was surprised by it. So, and the other thing, and this could be in my what sauce, but I'll say it now just because it's fresh in my mind. She wants to go back to the stadium? Uh-huh. Really? The stadium?
Really?
I don't know if that's a good idea. I mean, the only way that would be good is if Madison shows up. And it's like, surprise, I've been here this whole time. But I don't think, like, could the stadium even be there anymore? Would it have burned down or just be still infested with the dead? I don't know, and how far is it? Like that, that's
how
the
far
whole
is
thing.
It in real miles or fear Texas miles?
Yeah. Texas is Rhode Island.
And she shows up and Madison's been hiding in the hot dog stand eating turnips all this time.
Yep. Yep. My last awesome sauce, now that I think about it, is we finally see Grace. So not enough of Grace.
You're right.
Oh, here's the last second of the episode, but still we see Grace. So
yep.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thanks, Brian. All right. Well, then that leads us into weak sauce.
You're worthless and weak.
All right. Well, it looks like we only got one weak sauce, and that comes from Erin from the internet. And she goes on and says, Morgan Sue Jones, as always. Them cutting to him during the Alicia Strand standoff at the end just ruined perfectly good drama. It's not about you, Mary. The bad guy of the week. That was weak. I'd also give a weak sauce to Alicia, saying she was training Charlie to kill zombies to help clear the stadium, as I'm pretty sure Charlie knows how to kill. Ask Nick. Thank you, Aaron. Also, she was with the Vultures for months, so yeah, she shouldn't need a training montage. Thus, that was weak in dialogue writing, I feel. Yeah, well, I mean, we already just talked about, it's just like, why does she want to go to the stadium? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
just, and yeah, I mean, I guess Charlie does know how to kill, but, you know, maybe, again, we don't know. It's not like we've been shown anything about Charlie facing Walker, so it's like, we just kind of have to take her word for it.
Charlie knows how to kill. She knows how to kill, like, plots.
Oh gosh!
Oh,
Dun-dun-dun.
man. Can't believe you guys are hacking on Charlie.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. It's just, I just never really liked her continuing in with the show. And it's like, you know, the Alicia moment with her in that house, season during the storm.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, okay, I feel like I'm just like, I have to accept it, but I still don't like her and why she's even still around, but anyways. All right. Thank you, Aaron. And that leads us into our weak sauce. LT, do you have any?
I do. Alicia is a squeaky board magnet. Every time she took a step, it was like she was, was she wearing tap shoes when she was sneaking around in the attic? Because it's like every time she took a step, it was like, reek, reek. And it's like, well, if there's somebody creepy downstairs, they won't be downstairs for long. Because it just seemed like that was a little obvious. If we go back to the beginning of the episode, so you're going to tell me that none of the Rangers that got ambushed at least broke squelch on their walkies. They at least went clicky clicky before they had to put their hands up. And about that. So they took out all those guys and nobody got off a shot.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so when the guys are getting taken out, just how far down the road did Strand and Sidekick Girl go? It just seemed like that they were not that far away. So did all the Rangers just die silently? Nobody screamed. Nobody clicked the radios. Nobody got off a shot.
Yep.
One of my other points was, doggone it, Morgan, make up your mind. Because one minute he's like, I'm building a place and I'm killing people because I'm going to make it safe. And then it just took Alicia going, well, I don't want to go with you, Morgan. But I did it for you. I did it for us. Okay, she can come.
Yeah.
I'm so on the fence about the Dakota thing. So I was going, doggone it, Alicia, make up your mind. Because she's like, well, you can't go. We'll go somewhere else. Or we'll go with you, but we've got to take Dakota. And just that whole thing is like, come on. Make a decision. They're your buddies. Pick a plan and let's do it. Because the thing that's going to bother me is that this is weak and this is sort of, Dakota is going to be a crap magnet for them. I understand she wants to get out. You want to help her. But it's obvious that Jenny is going to do anything she can to get her sister back. And this is going to just bring down all kinds of trouble on their heads. You can't turn her loose. You got to be... I just see that whole thing with them and Strand. It's just going to be ugly. And it's set up the ugly that's going to be whenever we get back to the series.
I think that was what then changed her mind was plot. Because and then I don't know, just seeing Morgan and like she had everything. Like Alicia was like, "Hey," I'm like talking to Jenny was just like, "I'm going to like, hey, we'll make sure she's safe or gets to her wherever the safe house is, but but you have to let me and Charlie go." And I was surprised that Jenny was like, "Okay," and she kind of agreed with it. Then we obviously see that's not the case, but so much changed because of that. Because Alicia Strand told him that it's like, "Oh no, she's taking Dakota away or with them or whatever, and this and that." So I don't know. It was like she just. That whole it's obviously the plot is setting this all up, so it's like
and there were just more waffles than a 24-hour roadside restaurant,
well, and it was like, and then Ed, which just goes into my weak sauce, was just, and like Brian, you kind of mentioned it too, or it's just like he was not like besides what I was getting ready to say, he's he at the very end like grabs Alicia and says something. I was like, "Oh no, don't do the thing that you're thinking you're doing because it's like that's the right thing," or like whatever, blah blah blah. And for one, I'm like, how does he know any of her plans? And like he didn't know that she talked to Jenny, and but it's like it was like, oh, here's the moral of the story. It's like, oh, Alicia, don't do the thing you're thinking you're going to do because everybody will get hurt in the end. And like that was enough to make her maybe question what she was doing. And then Morgan showing up and like all this other stuff. So I don't know. It was just
because of course you're going to take the advice of a creepy taxidermist who's been living by himself, grafting horns onto walkers.
Right. Who had just now told you that he killed his own family and not, or like got them killed instead of lying, like he said. But Ed, he was just not scary at all to me this whole episode, and I just felt like he like had some kind of bipolar issue because he was just waffling back and forth. Like he was either like, "Oh, I'm going to trap you here because it's not safe," to like, "Oh, I'll hold on to my my creations off to save you because I'm on your side." And it was just like, wait, what are you? Like Brian, you said you were like, what are you? Scary and messed up, or are you really helping them and you're like you care? Like I don't know, it was up and down the whole entire episode, so it just didn't land right for me at all.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. If you're gonna be creepy, man. He was just too wishy-washy to be really creepy.
Well, they kept presenting him as creepy, and then they kept pulling him back to say, well, no, he's not really creepy. He's just misguided, or he just misses his family, and
All right, well, that's all I had for my weak sauce. Brian, you have any?
Alicia, were you like a half a mile away or something? Because otherwise, it doesn't really make sense. Like. Strand, why can't you find Dakota? Why does he have to call Alicia to find her? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me,
Mm-hmm.
Because plot.
Yeah. And I'll give credit. Jason and Lucy mentioned that on their podcast too. So, but it didn't make a lot of sense. Like he didn't even try to find her. He just called Alicia and yet, like I say, how far away was she? It's like, it's not like she had to, it took her, days to get there or, even hours. It seemed like minutes, maybe a half hour tops, so obviously not very far away. I was hinting at it earlier that it was good to see Alicia, and we really haven't seen enough of her this episode or this season. I mean, this is a woman who is second on the call sheets. So yet we're only seeing her in episode 2 and episode 7 so far. I mean, I'm thinking she's probably got to be in episode 8 and hopefully a lot of the rest of the season, but I think that we should have seen more of her. And, I mean, I don't know. Then again, like somebody like Daniel, we've hardly seen at all so far too. Saw him like one episode. So same episode actually as we saw Alicia, episode 2, right? A lot of what you said, LT, like, how did you sneak up on him like that, Morgan? And how come Strand didn't hear any of the ruckus? Like, how far away did he and Samuels have to go to not hear any of that? Like, didn't hear the truck drive away, didn't hear any of them, get killed, nothing,
Because I'm sure that when Dakota pulled off, she pulled off safely and gently.
Yeah, definitely. And, like, I'm surprised that Morgan would just leave them, like, to turn. It doesn't seem like his style. So I guess maybe he didn't know that Strand was the person that was in the truck originally, but still, that's kind of surprising, I guess. The whole, and this is again another thing that Jason and Lucy mentioned, but I gotta agree. It's like the whole thing about taxidermying the walkers and that, and all the things that we see, it just seems like a half-baked idea, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? We haven't done this yet on the show. And they've done a couple of these this season. We've had embalmed walkers, we've had taxidermied walkers. We're gonna have cremated walkers next. But so that's cool, but I don't think it just looked like they were ornamented. They were like life-size Christmas ornament walkers or something. They weren't as scary as you led to believe yet. Like Alicia's reaction to the one when and she seems to almost get like, overwhelmed by it. That was, I don't know, that seemed out of character to me. It's like she was surprised. Just, I can't remember what that walker had, but it just, I don't know. I didn't really buy that part of it. There were a lot of inconsistencies, I guess, with this story. Like, how did he board up the house and none of them be aware of it until after the fact? Did that happen while she was knocked out? And how come Dakota didn't realize it? Or how come Charlie didn't like say anything with, I guess at that point she was inside, right?
Maybe.
So, yeah. It just, I don't know. There were just some weird parts of the story that I had to kind of like go, huh? And the waffling, I have to agree with. There was a lot of waffling, and it wasn't. It was waffling of Ed, but it was also waffling of Alicia, waffling of Morgan, waffling of Strand. Everybody was waffling. They should have just got some maple syrup and had breakfast. So, I don't know. It could have been a lot better. It seemed like maybe this episode, while they got it done, would have benefited from some reshoots or something later if they had the chance to do it. Because I don't know, it had a lot of potential, and good acting. It just seemed to lack in a few places,
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Brian. Well, then that will lead us into our what sauce.
What?
And we only had one listener's what sauce comes from Aaron. LT, you want to take this?
Okay, the inconsistent writing for Alicia. Again, she had nice speech moments at the start and end, but really that was it. Alicia's one of those silent characters you have to watch for because she could easily surprise you with moves, but they never fully go there with her, and it's like, why? She's an original and the last Clark. Again, everything should be flowing through her given Fear was about the family, but no. It's like Alicia is a special guest star of the week for the series instead, and that's just sad.
I would agree with that.
Yep. Had they spent more time this episode with Alicia arguing with Strand, or just more time in general showing Alicia's bitterness, the end scene with Strand may have been better, but as it is, it was just meh at best. Stop being scared of questionable Alicia show and letting her get into plots. If you have made her the next Madison, do better with her handling, please. Alicia is more than just someone to stand around until action is almost done or who waits to be captured upstairs after she saw someone disappear downstairs. And I would agree with that.
Yeah. I think, like I said, I think she's been misused. I don't have much else to say about that. I just think that I expected more this episode than what I got. I think it was more played like a mystery than, or like a horror film where, horror suspense where, she wasn't like a hero. She was more like a victim, and I don't know, like parts of it reminded me of Saw, parts of me, or something like that, or creepy serial killer guy. Like when she was, she wakes up, on the table and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just, I had issues.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
It makes your point though. That's like, I wonder if there was some, sacrificing of just what they were able to do because of the pandemic, and they couldn't go back and do it,
right.
Because I know they talked about like they were, or there was an article in, I think, Entertainment Weekly they were talking to them, and this wasn't supposed to be the mid-season finale,
right?
But in the end, they were like, well, but hey, it actually worked out pretty good, and it's like, well, Grace basically was it. Like that was, we had to wait, 40 some odd minutes to get to the actual cliffhanger that happened to work. But now what's the next episode? What was it supposed to be? And would this made a little bit more of a, it was just a thing, or, maybe something tied into what season 8 or episode 8 was supposed to be.
Right.
They just went with this, and then who knows? But yeah,
But they definitely got through their practical effects budget.
Yep. And I mean, it's like, I agree with you, Aaron. It's like they could have spent a lot more interaction or time, like with Alicia and Strand being on opposite, sides of stuff,
And it's probably worth saying that if we were ending on episode 8, we may have gotten, or we're about to get what we're wishing that we had, but instead, we didn't get, what I'm saying? Like this is like one of those things. It reminds me of how season 10 of the main show ended, and how, like, before the last episode, and how we were felt kind of wanting because it didn't feel like the last episode.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Very similar kind of reaction here to this one. And I'm curious to know, like, how much of that episode they got through. Obviously not enough, but
yeah, that's the question. It's like, wonder if that had the effect, and that's what we're seeing is
or could they have taken, could they have taken, some of that 8th episode and tacked it on to this episode?
Right. Yeah.
Like, I don't know, present it like an episode and a half or something like that. But, they can't do that because of the other show. And, it would have Talking Dead show up at 11:45 or something like that.
Right.
So there are trade-offs, but
Yeah.
And consequences.
yes, there are consequences for your actions.
All right. Well, thank you, Aaron. That was all that we had from our listeners for the What Sauce. So let's go into ours. LT, you want to start with what you had?
Well, my what sauce is, we've already talked about her. Charlie is obviously a ninja. Or maybe she was just hiding in the closet with the blankets that Alicia was supposed to go get when she was cold. We've already talked about it. It's the fact she's in the building. What's she doing in the building? All this stuff's going on. Was she hanging out? Was she taking a nap? And I guess my other what sauce is, Dakota has an opinion about things and she won't be wavered until she doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It just seems like, we need to do this. My sister will do this. And it's like, go with you? Okay. That was just kind of my what's, because it just seemed like, again, we've already said there was a lot of waffling going on. It just seemed like that, she was all determined to do something until she wasn't. So,
Mhm.
Well, yeah, because it's like Dakota is like telling them like, or telling Ed, I guess, was just like, oh yeah, Jenny killed my parents. But then I think Alicia asked her like, is that true? And she's like, I don't know. like, okay, wait, what is it? She killed your parents and you're seeming to be like, that's a thing that's upsetting you and you're trying to get away from your sister, but then asked point blank. And then she's like, oh, I don't know.
well, yeah. And it's like, well, if they killed your parents, does that mean that she killed her own parents? Or was this just a lie?
Right.
Or were they dead already?
Yeah. Anyways. All right. I will go on to mine. And we kind of already talked about it. So it's just the whole Morgan killing the Rangers. It was kind of like a lot of it just never really added up because wasn't there like maybe, I don't know how many there were there like 8
Yeah,
Rangers?
there was, I want to say 6 to 8.
And they all were pretty well armed.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the story from Morgan, basically I guess from Dakota. It was like, oh, like all these walkers came out of the woods. And then all of a sudden somebody or something showed up and then she got scared and drove off. And, we're like, I didn't see Morgan have a gun. He had his
Axe.
And, so like, how was he able to, I don't know, it's kind of like, how was he able to overpower that many people? And I think he did tell Alicia that he's like, I don't know, but I gave him a choice. I'm like, what? Like, these guys want you dead and they have like better weapons than you, like range weapons.
And you want to say at least they may not be trained killers, but at least they're gunsels. What did he do? Did he take them out like, Shaolin Showdown, like a Shaw Brothers Kung Fu movie or something? And they were just laying in the road.
Yeah.
They weren't twisted up or chewed up or in big...
Yeah.
That's why I winked it. You can wad it. It's the same. It's the same thing.
Wow. Yeah, and I did too. It was very. That was. It didn't make a lot of sense to me.
And since you're gonna say, and the horses ran off.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, how did you knock them off the horse, or did you somehow force them off of it?
Yeah.
And then the horses.
He takes out like 8 of them. The horses all go away, and he makes it out without a scratch. And he offers them a choice. Like, huh? Like, what was he invisible? Is he like is he not just a ninja, but is he like, a Jedi or something?
Yeah, he's got some telepathy. Like he could,
That's what I'm saying, man. This is like classic 70s karate movie stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And yet, this would have been an awesome scene to see,
right?
But we don't see it.
We don't get to see it at all.
Yeah, if it was choreographed by, the guy who did, what is it, Hidden or Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon or something.
Right.
But
starring special guest star from Star Trek Discovery, Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, I could totally see that in a Jackie Chan movie or a Michelle, one of her earlier movies.
I'll just say this for anyone, and you guys know, but she's been awesome this season of Discovery.
Yep.
Just, anyway.
Yeah. Well, then the other, I kind of wasn't sure what to put this, but it was just like, I just made me an observation because it just seemed weird that like Alicia tells Charlie to wait outside while she goes in and investigates. But then it seemed like, okay, like how much time passed when Alicia got basically tied up to Dakota, running into Dakota, they're playing chess, they're like talking about things. She's getting cold and wants a fire. And like Charlie was outside, literally like right outside the lodge. Like when they walked up, she's literally in the backyard. Like she's not that far away. So
Ninja.
Right. And I was like, how much time did it pass before Charlie decided to like, okay, like I'm worried about Alicia. It just seemed like it was like 8 hours had passed. And then Charlie's like, okay, Alicia, I guess is not coming out. So I go investigate.
It's like, it's gotten dark. It's getting cold. Maybe she's not coming back.
I gotta pee.
Yeah.
Or to her credit, maybe Charlie found the kitchen and she's like eating peanut butter sandwiches or something.
Or pudding.
Oh, God.
Carl. Yeah, well, I mean, it's like, that's the thing, too. It's like, okay, it was called, what? It was like, whatever lodge. Buck's Landing. That's what it is. It was called Buck's Landing, and so we know it's a lodge, or from what Ed was saying, it's like his family went up there, which we never really saw how big this place was, and I'm assuming it's really big because everybody's getting lost in it and can go like.
Well, it's big enough. It's big enough. They have the scenic mezzanine over your evil science lab.
Yeah. So I mean, it was just kind of like maybe then, yeah, it's like Charlie went to go find Alicia, stumbled upon the kitchen, was like, ooh, here's some food. I'm just going to eat here while I'm like just, hanging out. But,
yeah, it would have been totally classy if she showed up with the number 10 can and a spoon. I mean,
yeah. I just I'm finding that the show, and like what I think you were saying, Brian, where it's like, okay, Alicia was in some outpost, but yet all of a sudden it's like, oh, like, meets up with a Strand. It's like I feel like their use of like time passing, they're just being completely loose with, because it's like, okay, well,
this, let's face it, we know from season 5 this is not the showrunner's strong suit.
True.
And for that matter, I like this. I have to say this every episode. Morgan falls asleep in the back of a semi and wakes up in Mississippi. How does that happen?
The same way that Alicia is at some shed in the middle of East Hog Knuckle, Arkansas.
Yeah.
And then shows up where everybody is.
Kyle, you grew up in Oklahoma. You have, I would say, more experience with Texas than either of us. Although I don't know, LT, maybe you've been in Texas. Like, Texas is a pretty damn big state, the largest in the continental, or the contiguous 48, right? Like,
Yes.
Doesn't it take like half a day to cross, if not longer, to cross Texas?
Depending on what point of entry, but like
Right.
if you're going from east to west coast, like down, like going from like Louisiana to getting into like New Mexico.
Yeah.
Like I've driven that, and it takes almost 24 hours, if depending, how fast you can go. The entire day is spent driving to get across that, and that's like the widest point.
Yeah. But yet these walkie-talkies are so powerful that
Oh, yes.
anywhere in Texas, you can pick them up and just literally, somehow magically you can find the right channel to hit, and, no one else listens to you. No one else picks up that you're trying to talk to Ginny, or, it's just miraculously, they work like cell phones.
Well,
Yes.
Brian, I wasn't going to say it, but the one thing that I was going to, I sort of let slide was the radio that they had in the lodge looked like a,
That's
like
another thing.
like a ham radio.
Yeah.
And I'm going frequencies.
Right.
Because, these walkies are probably, they look like VHF, public safety type radios.
Right.
And it's completely the wrong band unless
Right.
you had the right equipment. So add that to your distance, which channel, even the right freak.
Well,
it's just-
even if, like, by some freakish chance it's the right kind of radio, like, how the F does he suddenly just have a radio? It's like, of all possibilities, he has a radio.
He's got power.
Yeah. And why does he have a radio? Who's he calling? Is he just listening in on Ginny?
well, it was there before. We could always say that it was an existing piece of hardware.
Okay.
And
So he had a ham radio or something, of that nature in
at the
his
lodge,
little.
or the lodge people had it.
Okay.
But
Assuming
I'll still go with your thing of make what channel, what frequency, and just my experience with walkies is even when you have good ones, granted where they're at may have less significant terrain features in between line of sight, but I've been in situations before with handhelds where I'm in the valley, you're in the valley on the other side of the ridge, and you can't hear me because the walkie won't go over the mountain.
Yeah. So this whole universe obviously has a huge suspension of disbelief that you have to kind of get over, but these kind of things create a vast, like, cavern of suspension of disbelief. Like, you need to build a bridge that goes into orbit.
It's
practically.
It's what I ended up calling. It's jumping the Snake River Canyon of disbelief.
That is, I remember that Evel Knievel. That was a stunt that basically ended his career. Went so horribly wrong.
Pretty much. Well,
Yeah.
you could argue that him jumping on a 70s era street bike as far as he did, like Caesar's Palace, didn't help.
No.
And the guys that are doing it now are using, dirt bikes that have like 14 or 16 inches of travel. And he was doing it on a road bike that maybe has 4 or 5. So
Yeah.
anyway, but
Yeah.
it's we're not just like taking small leaps of suspension of disbelief. We're talking big ones.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it for what I've got for my hot sauce. So, Brian, you have any more?
Well, my main thing was Samuels. I mean, what was the deal there? Did Ginny kind of have a doppelganger, someone that she would put in, if she was worried about getting assassinated somewhere, would she put, Samuels, why don't I send Samuels in there? Like this made me think that whoever, I didn't get the actress that played Samuels, but she has to be a stunt double of Kobe Minifee or something, because she looked exactly
yeah.
like her. And not only that, like same height, same hair, same look, everything. The only difference was she did not have a twang to her accent. She was, more of a Midwest accent. That was it. That's the only way you could tell them apart, because when I first saw her, I'm like, okay, Ginny's on this trip.
Yep.
Why is Ginny there? Why is Ginny on the horse? It was like, what?
It's like,
so,
hey, Samuels, check for snipers. Stand up and wave.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, I think she's Jenny's LMD.
Yeah, what does that mean? You mentioned that. I don't.
Life model decoy for
okay.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's how you get somebody that can infiltrate and take over, because they're an exact duplicate robot of the person.
So, did I miss something somewhere in this season or last? Like Samuel's, is this the first time we've seen her? I don't know.
I think so.
What are the actual chances that there would be someone in Ginny's organization that would look identical to Ginny? That's not her sister, right? Because Samuel's obviously is not her sister, because she's not named after a state. She's not Maryland or something.
Oh, man. Yes, Samuels is the one they put in the back of the Suburban just to look out the window and wave when they drive through.
Yeah, or Nevada or something. I don't know. Or Arizona. There you go. Arizona. That's one I've actually heard used by Grey's Anatomy. There's a character, Arizona. But anyway, I didn't get that, and it was distracting. There was no real purpose for her to look exactly like Ginny, except to confuse the viewer, unless there's some plot point that's coming up that explains. Yeah, and I would have to say, they're telegraphing a scene that we're going to see a few episodes from now. Someone's going to take a shot at Ginny, and it's going to be Samuels. It's coming. It has to come. I just figure it has to come.
So it's not just the fact that she happens to be the same approximate build, the same approximate height, same hair color, same hat. Just a bare coincidence there.
Yeah, it's a shocking coincidence. She didn't. Ginny didn't say, "Well, I think you would look really good as a redhead," or something like that. But I don't know. That was just the thing to me.
Maybe that's why she's with Strand. She's since she's Ginny's body double, she's Ginny's spy. She's her confidant.
The point being, I think it would have benefited the episode if they had just addressed that. This woman that is, part of this party, she looks just like Ginny. Why does she look just like Ginny? Does Ginny make her look just like Ginny? Or is it just a coincidence? That was the point, though. It's during the cold open of this, I was like, is this Ginny? Okay, well, it can't be Ginny, because why does he call her Samuels? And then why does she not have the accent? Anyway, it was confusing, and it made me feel like there was a scene that had been deleted or something that we didn't see, that explained the fact that there is some doppelganger there. I guess this is probably from last week, but I guess it's worth saying that the whole season was built around from last week. Since we didn't mention it so much earlier, I'll mention it here. It's like the whole season was based on gas, and now the whole tank town is gone. So,
yeah, but they're running on fumes.
Yeah, so they don't have much gas anymore. So, and I guess doesn't fit into what sauce. But I guess John made it out.
Yep.
He's gone. So will they know where to find him? And who will find him? Will June find him? So, and how's the hospital going? Could they actually build a hospital in a week?
Well,
I don't think so. So
yeah, I'll go into time later.
Yeah.
I'll make another point basically, but alrighty. Well, let's go into then our sad and awe sauce. And our first listener's sad awe sauce comes from Erin from the internet. And she says, Alicia wanting to go back to the stadium because of Madison feelings. That said, I'm pretty sure no zombies are there because it's been a year or so. Unless someone paid the power bill, there would be no music or anything to attract zombies. Thus, I don't know why she would say it needs to be cleared. Also, I totally laughed at her saying it wasn't that far away because, of course, it's not. Everything is within 5 miles of everything else this season.
Yep, we're saying the same thing.
Yep.
Okay, Glennis from Toronto says, oh boy, Grace being kept in a secret room and will be used as a weapon against Morgan. Grace being Morgan's weakness. We do need at least this relationship to work out, what with Dwight and Sherry and John and June on the rocks for now.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there's always got to be an every Aunt May for your Spider-Man.
Oh, thank you, Glennis. That was all our listeners' sad and awe sauce. So let's go into ours. LT, I guess you're the only one that had any.
I am, and Glennis already hit on it. My sad sauce was Grace in a box. That all this time we've been wondering where Grace was, and she was in a box in Lawton.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
not even a good box at that.
Oh, like that whole, like
It
the
was-
whole door being shut was, yeah.
Well, and that goes back to one of my things where there's a building and there's no doors on the exterior. So why is there a building? You know, it's kind of like the whole secret compartment thing when you go, my goodness, this suitcase is certainly shallow. Clunk, clunk. Oh, there's a secret compartment. I mean, you'd think, and I'm not even saying absurdly curious people, but just walking around town going, you know, hey, Elmo, what's in that building? I don't know, Carl. I got no idea. There's no doors. So you got a building with no doors, no windows, and nobody wonders what's in it.
Yeah. Again, that must be that's just like the special tool shed that only Jenny and company,
Yes.
like, you know.
That's Jenny's special tool shed.
It's her she shed.
She said,
No one's allowed to go in there or touch. Yeah, it's like that's
Don't
hers.
go to Jenny's she shed.
Oh, goodness.
That's where her and Samuels hang out to do their facials. Oh, sorry.
It's good.
Oh, you're ruining my sad sauce.
Sorry. Oh, well.
Oh, well.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for that, LT. All right. Well, let's go into our feedback.
We can talk about it. Done talking. Time to listen.
All right. Our first feedback and only feedback for this episode comes from Glenn from Toronto. And she says, I still do not trust Dakota and her motives. I think she was quite at home with Ed's serial killer persona. So Ed at first told Alicia that Virginia had killed his family, which wasn't true. So maybe Dakota is also mistaken or lying that Virginia killed her family, which is also Virginia's folks, right? Yep. Lizzie from The Walking Dead and Dakota can get together and exchange crazy stories and reasoning, as that is the vibe I get from Dakota. I don't know if I get that crazy Lizzie-ish. kind of interaction. I'm not quite seeing that. But, well, she goes on and says, it's nice to see Alicia and Charlie teamed up together, especially after that dark period after Charlie killed Nick. Alicia and Charlie were also alone in another creepy house just after Nick was killed in Fear the Walking Dead. Season 4, episode 10, Close Your Eyes. Alicia mentioning the stadium and needing to be cleared got me wondering if they plan to bring Madison back for Fear the Walking Dead. Nope. Wishful thinking, I suppose, but we didn't see her die. True. I don't see how with all this time, and I think we were talking about this, LT. It was just, I don't see how this could ever be a possibility. Like, how she would even fit.
I agree.
Yep.
I hate to say it, but I just don't see there being any possibility of her returning. It's just like, from just a logistical standpoint, I just don't see it.
Yeah, it's just too much time has passed, too many different things for her to show up. Even story-wise would just not really fit at all.
Nope.
At least what we've seen so far. All right, well, Glynis goes on and says, is Strand just going along with Virginia, and will it in the end turn and help Grace and Morgan in the group? Strand could have just gone with Morgan and company straight away and fight Virginia instead of telling Virginia that Dakota had gone with Morgan. Virginia would have been none the wiser if Strand had said Dakota could not be found. Strand's motives are murky unless he wants to take over from Virginia and then manage those encampments himself. I don't know. This will be interesting to see how that unfolds in future episodes. It's worrying that he was prepared to shoot Morgan and Alicia for a moment. And Morgan had a moment when he did also want to send Dakota back to Virginia, but gave in. I hope he doesn't regret that, as there's something not right with Dakota. I see The Walking Dead starts February 28th, 2021. Not too long to wait to tide us over until the second half of Fear the Walking Dead, which I think is taking over The Walking Dead in Walking Dead goodness. Well, I definitely would go into the news. There's been a little bit about, obviously, when everything kicks back in, but we'll go into that news, ratings, and info. I think the only thing I was thinking about her feedback, I mean, I don't think... Well, go ahead, LT.
I was going to say, I don't see Dakota as being, crazy. I just think Dakota is wanting to get out from under her sister, since her sister is the, parent. I think she's just doing what teenagers do. And I'm assuming that the way Virginia's treated her, that she just wants to, get out and listen to emo records and, do whatever rebellious teenagers do in the apocalypse.
Yeah. I think we come back to at the beginning of this season in Dakota, I think even says she's seen the tapes, and, she saw, she obviously, we don't know everything that she's seen of how Virginia's been, how she's been seeing how she treats other people, or she just knows that she's kind of protected by her, but the rest of everybody around her is in fear, or they try to get away and she, kills them or does whatever. That Dakota being the teenager, and that's oh, I don't want to get away from my, pseudo parent.
Yep.
Just being hey, this other group, they I'd rather live with them than be, basically, helicoptered mom, by Virginia, being everywhere you go, Dakota has to be by your side or someone's with her, it's so I don't get her.
And like you said, you kind of have to figure she's seen what Virginia's done.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean,
so if she's got at least some sense of a moral code, maybe she's going, I know what you keep saying, that this is supposed to be building something for all of us, but you're kind of being cruel and hateful to these other folks just to get your own end.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's looking for a way to escape and get away from it all.
And now she's with Charlie.
Yay. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Glennis, for your feedback. And so that just leads us into our feedback. LT, I guess I'll start with you.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The only thing I had left to say was Strand. It's one of the things I love about his character. Props to Coleman Domingo for the way he plays him. But every time I start liking his character, then he starts, old Strand comes back.
Skeevy Strand.
Strand the hustler.
Yep.
And it goes back to that very first set of episodes when we first saw him in season 1, when he was always playing the long game. He was a hustler. He had all he had options laid out. He had plans. And I really wish that they could have worked in, it's just my style and it's my color too.
Yes.
That it's the way Strand is. And even though we saw him start to be more of a stand-up guy, and he said, when he sent Alicia away, is that you remind me of what I could have been, and I can't do what I need to do with you here. But also part of it is, I think that he sees a hustle. He's a con man and a hustler. He sees a hustle. He's playing his long game, and he thinks that this is his way. If I get in good with Jenny, then it'll give me more latitude to do something else so that I can, do what I want to do. And we don't know if that's get all the group out and get the band back together and be happy somewhere else. Because again, you said it. He's skeevy. He's a hustler. He's a con man. He's a grifter. And we don't know what he's up to. And that's part of the tasty parts of the episode.
Yeah.
But from one point, you kind of go, this guy has had more redemption arc boomerangs than, I care to remember. Because every time he gets to that edge and you think he's going to do the right thing, then it's old Strand kicks back in. And, when you can't forgive Dakota for shooting Nick. I have a hard time forgiving Strand for shooting Daniel. So, we still go through the same thing that I just want to know where this is going. And I'm hoping and praying that they don't drop the ball with it.
Yeah.
Because we've seen how many balls they've dropped so far, or at least if they haven't dropped it, they're still juggling it when they get out the back of the end zone. I just want to see them. I want to see them make the catch, not drop the ball, and get through it. I didn't want to mix my sports metaphors and say not drop the ball and stick the landing, but you kind of see where I'm going with that.
Well, I mean, that's kind of one, now that I'm just thinking about it, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but it seems those Strand's character throughout the whole show has, for the most part, been like they've played his, or kept his character basically being in the same kind of, deal where, we know him from before being like, okay, he's a con man, he's not trustworthy, to being like, working the long game and actually, helping everybody. His character's always been that way. We've always, like, anything Strand does, we're always questioning it because it's like, yeah, is this Strand being Strand or is this Strand being Strand? So, I mean, at least I guess for the show, they're keeping him somewhat consistent for the most part.
Yeah.
Which is good because that's a big part of the show. Like it's Strand.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, I was kind of like was going through some of my feedback. It's like just kind of like, okay, we talked about some of the stuff, but I just to add again of like, they seem to make Texas the size, of like, it was like 5 miles. And I noticed there's the map that Alicia had at the outpost. And, like I looked at the screen grab, and basically it's a pretty decent map that she's got. And it basically found that she's south of Midland, Texas. So she's, in the grand scheme of things, it's like, I still don't know where Tanktown is per se, like in where she is, at least in like that location. But if we're to believe that Lawton is possibly Lawton, Oklahoma, maybe even close, or maybe just right on the Texas side of the border, she just named it Lawton. Like I was looking up, it's about 331 miles away from generally like where Midland, Texas is, or I think Alicia's in Midkiff or something like that. So it's about a 5-hour drive to get to Midland and back close to where Alicia is. So
Right.
it's like, okay, well then it's like the guy from Tanktown, or they were saying the guy that left Tanktown, he was like, oh, I'm 8 hours out, so going back to Lawton. So it's like, okay, well, Tanktown must be somewhere, around, like the other opposite side of where Alicia is. But again, it's like, here it is where we have like Texas huge, and we don't necessarily know where everybody is, but it's like, okay, well, if Alicia is meeting up with Strand, where the heck is Strand then? Where was this convoy going?
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's like, okay, well, if Alicia is going to go meet Strand, then that was probably on horseback. No, mind you, it's like, then was that like 3-hour horseback ride? Instead we just see like, oh, like they just show up, and that, it's like, I feel like they would have been camping for several nights and be like, oh, like, I haven't seen you for, I haven't heard from you for days on the walkie, it's,
Yep.
I don't know. They are being so free on this whole like area that, it just kind of like, I guess it makes it easy riding because they don't even have to even like deal with it. They're just like, oh yeah, they just show up. Okay, well, it's been a couple of days. We just have to assume that and just go with it. I don't know.
It's magic gas and magic batteries. And
Yeah, well, and I'll go into my other part too. It's like, Brian, do you have something?
No, I was just going to say, but we do have like on the other show, World Beyond, they can make an engine out of an air conditioner. I mean, let's not forget that.
And nail polish and
nail polish, yes, yes, nail polish, or not nail polish remover will make fuel, which.
But that was nail polish.
Was it?
Yeah, it was actual polish because it was in little bottles with brushes.
Okay.
So they so they had their Swiss Army knife and their paper clip and their tube sock.
Yep, and after 10 years, that stuff is still just as volatile.
If that's true, why don't more women's fingernails go on fire?
Because the solvent evaporates, leaving the enamel behind, and the enamel itself is not nearly as flammable
I see.
as the volatile solvent carrier that it is contained in.
Things I don't know about, and glad that I don't.
Oh, we're bringing the science to the show. Well, I'll go, and then that's like, again, like not only are the miles and like the time frame, but it's like, obviously like a lot has passed, like since, this end of season 5 to the start of season 6. So it's like I know there's been talk about like, well, maybe the show will catch up to the main show. And it's interesting because it's like, just in parts of the different episodes that we've seen, like John said in episode 4 that it had been 246 days since anyone had lost their life. So that's roughly about 8 months. And then Alicia said they had been out their outpost for 6 weeks, and it's like, Dakota then talked to Strand saying it's like, oh, John's been missing about a week. So it's like all this time has passed, and we don't really have like a clear timeline, because then we also have to add the fact that like the very first episode, it's like Morgan was hurt. How long did it take him to heal? So that could be another 6-8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I heard then it was like 6 weeks or something. But
Okay, I went back to try to find it and I couldn't, but still, that's another 6 weeks. So it's like, how much time has passed just in this, these first 7 episodes? I was like, has it been about a year?
Did he has he washed Emil's shirt yet?
I mean, one can speculate that it's been at least like 246 days plus 7, so 253 days. Like, so I don't know what that would work out to.
So probably about what did it say, 9,
maybe
10 months?
Well, 8, a little more than 8 months, I think. So
yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, I'm finding it interesting. We do get these little clues here and there about time, and
yeah,
so it's just making it interesting. It's like, I know they had talked about saying that there was going to be some time jumps, before the season started, but
well, okay, so let's think about this. If that's true, and 8 months have passed, wouldn't Grace have had her baby by now?
You would think.
One would think. Of course, she looked like she was sort of.
Unless this is a radioactive baby.
Yes, those take longer.
and she has like a 13-month pregnancy or something.
Yeah.
Anything's possible.
Well, and I mean, she did look pretty big, so she probably, then that could be 9 months. So
yeah.
As the old biblical term, she seems to be great with child.
And we got from the last episode, which I didn't stay to talk about, but that doctor seemingly has kicked the bucket, because I didn't get the doctor's name, but it was mentioned that the doctor was no longer there, like he was dead.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah. So obviously, probably in episode 8, June will be there delivering baby Grace, or sorry, Aaron, baby Morgan, another baby Morgan. Because one's not enough. We have to have 2 baby Morgans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of Grace, it was good to see her this episode, because now we've seen everybody.
Right.
So it's at least we got that all, like everybody's made their appearance in some form.
I think she was the last one.
Yeah.
Right.
But I still worry now about her.
Wait, no. There's one person we haven't seen.
Who's that?
Where's Skidmark?
Oh.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Skidmark.
Nope. And maybe, well, actually, we'll see. Maybe Daniel actually finds it. No, I was going on and saying, basically, it's like, I kind of worry about her. I don't, she is pregnant, so I feel like that's plot armor, because you can't kill a pregnant woman. At least not on this show. But it still now is making me think of like who's on the chopping block, because obviously we still have the back half. From the previews, it looks like, it's going to be kind of crazy. And like Alicia looks like she's in trouble. It's like there's, actually Grace, some of them look like they're like being interrogated or like, on their knees. So, kind of what we saw at the end of season 5, where they're being like,
smelled a little Negan-y.
Yeah. But I mean, again, it's like if they, like, we always have big deaths, or you're supposed to, in The Walking Dead. So it's kind of like, if they all make it out of this and only Virginia's dead, and or like somebody that's not part of one of our group, it's gonna just be like, okay, then it's like everybody just has the best plot armor and can live through all this, and it's gonna, I don't know. I was kind of thinking about that, and I'm like, okay, well, let's see. Hopefully they, not that I want anybody to die really, but yeah, it's kind of like I worry about Alicia. She's been on the show for so long. People do want to move on, and could they be looking at that? Grace is probably going to have the baby, and then Morgan and Grace can live happily ever in the Dam community.
Well, but let's look at it like this, though. How long has it been since somebody who was somebody died on Fear? A pretty dang long time.
Yeah.
So they might be due for it. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's who be the question. Well, we'll have to see. The only other thing I had to say was just like, I thought Jenny's acceptance of Alicia's demand was interesting because the way she's always been. But like, at first I was like, did she really mean that? Like, was she really just like, hey, I want my sister back. If you bring her back or like, take her to the safe house, it's like, then I'll let you go. And I thought because of her basically almost dying and, getting her hand cut off, that was like, okay, so I think she might possibly be broken. But of course, after Strand shows up and tells her that, it's like, oh yeah, they took your sister, she immediately went to basically, Virginia mode and, was like, I want every single one of them dead. Like what she says, she's like, I want every single one of them from the gulch. Like, yeah. Yep. Something like, I took everyone from that damn gulch. So it's like, I don't know. It was interesting. I thought for at least before the episode ended, I was like, ooh, Jenny might have been broken and this could be interesting. But then sure enough, yeah, it's, she went back and she wants them all dead.
See, that's the thing. I don't think she changed. I think she was gonna crawfish on Alicia. It just seems like she's gonna do whatever she has to keep Dakota safe. So,
yeah, and then just backstab him however she could. Yeah. She just was mending her little nub, and I was kind of like, oh, like maybe she is kind of having a little bit of a change of heart because
getting her stump harness affixed. Because like I said, I was wondering if she was going to get some kind of cool, fake arm like Aaron does, but instead she just kind of strapped to her.
Well, the way this show's like play on Western, maybe she'll get like a little windmill. She'll be like, "Oh, I got to check the direction of the wind."
No, you do the Napoleon thing and just have it stashed in your pocket.
Yeah,
and that saves on the prosthetic budget.
All right, well, that's all I had. So. Brian, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I got nothing. Yeah, I got nothing.
All right. Well, that leads us next to our other show, The World Beyond. The World Beyond Season 1, Episode 8, and it was titled The Sky is a Graveyard. Written by Elizabeth Padden and directed by Lauren Iaconelli, if I said that right. Description: a horrific discovery finds the group at a crossroads and prompts one of them to revisit past trauma. All right, well, LT, do you want to just go through your feedback?
Yes. So many flashbacks. We interleave the Silas waiting for Godot strapped to the jungle gym or the swing set, staring at the sky, and all the flashbacks about Dad. And I mean, we get it. His dad was okay when his dad was sober. He had lots of fond memories when he was a kid, but he flipped out. He killed his dad. He hid in his room and listened to rock and roll music. His dad reanimated. His dad tried to eat his mom. He killed his dad again.
But what's with his mom? Why did his mom, go all like, oh, you killed Dad, kind of reaction? That I didn't understand. It's like, because obviously this happened pretty far into the apocalypse. So has mom been like completely sheltered and doesn't know what it's like to... Mm-hmm. God.
And see, my 2 cents on that is, having dealt with domestic violence victims in the past, They did play that correctly because I have dealt with several couples who Saturday night, they're beating the stuffing out of each other. And then you take one of them to jail. And then Monday morning, she's down at the jailhouse bailing him out. And they go to court and it's like, well, we've reconciled. We still love each other. And then lather, rinse, repeat, and you're right back at it. So you could say that even though he was abusive, she still loved him and she was going to give him the Tammy Wynette treatment. And she was more shocked that Silas killed him because I don't know if she understood, just the way she looked. I don't know if she understood that he had turned because, I mean, come on, he's been a monster beating on her before. So
right.
She may not have put two and two together. The question they had about Percy, because Silas admitted, or he said that he killed him, but there's no body. So he says he dumped him in the river, so we don't know if he's going to show up later. So after all that, after all the flashbacks, Alden. Alden.
You mean Elton?
Corduroy boy.
Yeah, Elton.
Okay, Elton. I kept saying Alton in my notes, but anyway, the corduroy kid. Let's take the most inept survivable character and send him off by himself to run after the kid that has anger management issues after he's been told by his girl crush that she murdered his mom.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously a reaction to that as well, I think.
Yeah, and I could see him running off, but it just... I just think they should have tried to stop him because I just see that this is going to be... Nothing good is going to come from this.
No, you're right.
And...
Oh, I should mention, yes, I've caught up, listeners.
Yay.
In case you haven't figured that out yet.
And the other side is, I guess we know where Huck's been when she's not around.
Hey, Mom.
And yeah, that's the part I didn't put two and two together until I listened to Talking Dead. And she pretty much said, oh yeah, Julia Ormond's my mom.
Oh yeah, no, it was mentioned right at the end of the episode that
right, but the way it was mentioned,
watch, yeah,
right, the way it was mentioned, I didn't catch that it was that. Yeah, I didn't put two and two together about Dad's watch, and since she had the watch on when she killed the guy in the bunker, I think that this scene was a flashback.
Yeah, I figured it was. It wasn't really well labeled as such,
right.
But yeah. And obviously, she must have been the one that killed Percy and, what's his name? What's the other guy?
Tony.
Magic
Uncle.
Assuming Percy is dead.
See, I don't know if she did or not, because already, Silas had, it would be too easy if it was Silas because it makes sense.
That's why I don't think it is. I think that,
she's setting him up.
Yeah.
No,
that's what I think.
I'm kind of leaning to the blunt instrument school at this point, and I think he did it.
Okay. I don't see it because there's no motive. She has motive. He doesn't.
I disagree. I think he has motive.
Oh, just because he likes Iris?
Yeah.
He's got a crush on Iris? Okay.
and he was...
Okay, but why would he kill Tony? Because he got magic tricks?
No. I think that he snapped on Percy first, and Tony tried to stop him.
He killed him so much that literally there was no body.
Well, he said he drug him off and threw him in the river, which, again, I agree with why did he chuck one and not chuck both of them?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't see it.
But nobody, no crime. I'm
Right.
thinking, a badly injured, mangled Percy may pop up out of the woodwork next episode.
I think Huck has motive because those two are Percy and Tony were a security risk with the truck, them knowing where to find the depots, and probably knowing that the kids didn't know enough to be able to find it themselves, even though they got a demonstration of it.
Right.
Although then we see Iris kind of figures a lot of it out. Was that in the previous episode, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, and here's the other thing. When they were talking about, is the asset safe? That's singular. I think Iris is the asset, and I think Hope is just baggage.
Yeah, I would agree. I just don't know what makes Iris the asset and Hope not the asset.
Because Iris is the smart one.
Wait a minute, though. Think about this for a second. Who is she spending time with? She's spending time with Hope, not Iris. So maybe Hope is the asset? Maybe Hope, has some, we've already seen that she has some scientific, chemical ability. So maybe she is sought for that. I don't know. So maybe it's not Iris. Maybe it's Hope. Or maybe they're spoken as one. I don't know.
Well, looking at the sisters as a unit.
Right, exactly.
But just in my experience, if there's two, they are assets.
I agree.
So
maybe it's Felix.
I don't think so. I saw the preview, and I don't know about Felix. I think he was warming up the couch on Talking Dead because he's going to be back.
Where has entertainment been like this all this time? I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something like that.
That's right.
From last week. And I saw both episodes back to back, so it's a little confusing as to which one's which, but for me.
Well, I've been here since the beginning, and it's a little confusing for me too.
Oh goodness. Well, was that LT?
That's it, Kyle.
Okay. Yeah, I won't add much more. I kind of felt, and plus I haven't been watching this like as intently as I've been wanting to, but it's like I don't think Silas is like evil or anything like that. Obviously we saw with the flashbacks and like what I don't think he killed that other dude or whatever, the magic guy or whoever you guys are, whatever you call him. But I just thought it was interesting. It was like, okay, so what, Alden, child Doctor Who, and like, like they both leave together. And then I was just like, wait, like you're like children and you're just like, hey, we're just going to make it on our own. Let's like walk off and like, we're going to go do whatever. And I'm just like, I mean, we haven't seen them really like fight walkers or be challenged really in any way.
That's because they don't know how yet.
Well, right. And he's just,
that's a big reason.
Off.
That's a big reason why I haven't gotten into the show very much, is because it's just laughable how inept they are. And, if I could have taken this better, if this was the start of the apocalypse, not 10 years in, it's difficult for me to wrap my head around it, knowing that like in Fear and in the original show, they know very well how to kill walkers and they do it very easily, and it's very rare for them to get in trouble with them. It's usually if there are too many of them.
Right.
But these guys get into trouble with one or two, you know,
I know.
and it's ridiculous sometimes.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
yeah, and part of me wants to go, well, how many times have you had, a group of Boy Scouts that get lost and they survive in the woods by themselves because they've had, their scout training and they keep their heads and they're kids and they do better than adults who get lost in the woods.
Mhm.
But I'm not getting that vibe from these guys.
No.
It's like we've said before, it's the whole hothouse flower theory that they've been in the compound and they know there are walkers out there and they've taken their how to kill walker class from Felix, but they don't have much practical experience. And
None.
I don't see that they understand about water and food and shelter.
Right.
And
Right.
Totally. Like survival.
yeah.
Right.
So that's why, like I said, that's why I'm taking my position of you take, in a way, two of the weakest characters, you're going to put them out together by themselves in the woods.
Mhm.
So
And that's entertainment.
yeah.
All right. Well, that's all I had.
Well, since I didn't really had not seen it last week, just one thing I wanted to bring up, and that is that that we get to see another 10-year-old Soda again. And yay to the Walking Dead universe for scoring some blatant product placement with NC-based PepsiCo. Right? They're out of North Carolina, aren't they? Or they? Yeah, they were out of North Carolina. PepsiCo.
Well, I know that Pepsi was first formulated in North Carolina.
Well, let me just make sure of that. I should say NC founded PepsiCo because it turns out that they're headquartered in New York State now. But yeah, so they originally came from North Carolina. That's what that was one thing I knew. But anyway, yet again, another soda, or I hate to say it, but in Canada we call it pop. And it's just like, come on, a 10-year, bottle of Mountain Dew is not going to taste very good. So, and they were loving it. I'll just say I knew it. I thought that Huck was a spy. I just got this vibe. Somebody had to be a spy. I didn't think that Huck was the lieutenant colonel's daughter. That was a bit of a stretch, but yep, I'm not surprised that she's the spy. As far as Silas, I wondered why his flashbacks, like we get some of them, I think in episode 3, and then we get some more this time. I don't know why they couldn't have all been done in the same episode. So that was curious to me. I am not surprised. I think Silas is not the killer that he thinks that he is. He's kind of bought his own hype, and he's just, a tortured soul that's gone through, abuse, and he's dealing with it. But at the same time, he's been blamed for the killing of his father, and he blames himself for it, even though he shouldn't. So, so do you guys think that Percy's dead or not?
I mean, I haven't watched this enough to really try to dig into it, but I mean, I don't know.
I guess, unlike certain other people that people wish weren't dead, I think that they're gonna, if they let us know soon enough, I don't think he's dead, only because I think it's too good for a jump scare in the next 2 episodes since he disappeared at episode 8, and we've got 9 and 10 coming.
Yeah. And do you think it's going to be Silas that finds Percy? or is it going to be somebody else? Assuming he's not dead.
I think I'm going to bet it's Felix.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, Felix. Okay. Not Elton. I was thinking maybe Elton would.
No,
But-
I think it's going to be the main body of the group. And
Okay.
I think that Elton and Silas are going to be off doing something,
Yeah.
and I don't know if they'll bring them all back together for the cliffhanger or not.
And anyway, I mentioned the flashbacks a minute ago, just to get back to that. It made me think, like, especially the last two, that they maybe moved some of the flashbacks around some. Like, I'm not exactly sure why we got Huck's flashbacks in the previous episode versus this one. It would have seemed maybe more appropriate for Silas's flashbacks to be last episode and Huck's flashbacks to be this episode. I don't know, but that's my take. And I will say, begrudgingly, the show's gotten better. I've been hating on this show, saying how boring it is, and I would have to say that this particular week, I thought that World Beyond was better than Fear. I thought that Fear had a lot of things going for it, but there were a lot of things that were just a bit of a mess and didn't make a lot of sense. It was almost as bad as the log stopping the truck.
Yep.
But instead it wasn't like one little thing like that caused all this. It was a bunch of little things, but I thought that the story is a slow burn. I do get that. It's taken me a long time to kind of get into the characters. I'm still not. It's by far my least favorite of the universe. Not even close to the other two. But it's okay, So we'll see how it is next week.
Right.
So,
Well, and I liked last week's better because I like Huck's character, and I told Kyle, and I'll say this: you were right, Brian. I suspected, but you were right. You called it.
mm-hmm. Yep.
I will give credit where credit is due, sir.
Yep. I call him like I see him. So,
All right. Was that all?
Well,
That's-
the only last thing I have is we've got 2 episodes next week, or actually this week, excuse me. We got 2 episodes coming up. We'll see what they do with it. Hopefully we're going to tie up the ends that need tying up and leave the dangling bits of things that will make it worth coming back next season.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll be able to rewatch a little, at least the last few episodes, a little better.
Yeah, but it's going to be a tough one because it's going to be 2 hours back to back.
Oh,
Yep.
well, at least get it all out of the way.
Yep.
I'm not surprised that they're doing this. I think ratings just overall kind of dip when it gets into December because of people shopping and whatnot. Although I don't know if that's going to be true this year.
Watching Elf and Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think ratings, and you'll go into it next, but it's just like, I think the world has changed. It has been changing, but it's just like watching it on television when it airs is just not the same as people being able to stream it.
Yeah.
And pay for it
And we
all
don't know how many of the ratings are being affected by AMC Plus and AMC Premiere at this
right.
point. I would think it's probably quite a bit, but then again, I don't know. I know that I subscribe to Premiere. I would subscribe to Plus if they gave me a way to convert my year-long subscription, which I really regret doing that now. But Well, it was half price. So basically I got 6 months for free. Anyway, the main thing I would say is, so that's
it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then that takes us into news, ratings, and info.
There's a couple weird stories on the news.
Season 6, Episode 7 of Fear the Walking Dead got a 0.26 in the 18 to 49 with 1.085 million viewers. That is down from last week's episode, 0.32, and 1.270 million viewers last week. And that particular combination, 0.26 and 1.085 million, represents the lowest ratings of the show to date. And that's around the numbers that we were getting for a while on World Beyond earlier in the season. Season 1, Episode 8 of World Beyond was at its lowest rating of the season so far, with a 0.15 in the 18 to 49 with 627,000 viewers. This is down from 0.20 in the 18 to 49 with 783,000 viewers last week. In the 18 to 34 demographic, which we've been kind of watching just because of our perceived what World Beyond was going after, it got a 0.07 and a 0.14 was for Fear. So again, Fear is doing better. Talking Dead, which was back on after being gone for several weeks, although it's been on for a few weeks on AMC Premiere and AMC Plus, it got a paltry 0.04 in the 18 to 49 with 254,000 viewers. In the parent analytics, The Walking Dead fell out of the top 10 in average demand expressions this week. The number one show this week was, of course, The Mandalorian in both the digital originals and the overall. So, but The Walking Dead was at number 10 last week, and it is back at, probably number 11. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back next week because of the fact that they've announced when the show is returning. So, but we'll see. As far as news, I didn't get to watch Talking Dead this week, but LT reported here that in news, The Walking Dead Season 10 Extra is set to begin airing on February 28th. So not too much later than it would normally air the second half of a season. So I guess not too bad. And then we believe Fear will come back sometime around or after April 4th, depending on how long of a gap they want to make. And that's it as far as news.
We want to encourage you to follow us on Twitter at Walking Dead TTM, also on Instagram with the same handle. To submit your theories and feedback, most people post in our designated episode thread in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/WalkingDeadTTM. You can also email us at walkingdead@talkthroughmedia.com. You can access our feedback forum at talkthroughmedia.com/feedback. Or if you'd like to leave voicemail, you can call 216-232-6146. All of our new episodes are on YouTube. Just search for Talk Through Media and remember to subscribe and click the bell to get notified when we have new videos. Those videos go out first before the podcast does.
All right. If you'd like to support us, like and review the Talk Through Media Facebook page. You can find that at facebook.com/talkthroughmedia. The best way you can support us is on our Patreon. You can find that at patreon.com/walkingdeadtalkthrough. Me and Lawrence me and the LT, we've been talking about some of the things that we might be doing after, everything's finished airing in the next week, to maybe just like go back over and do like an overview of the full season. So maybe we'll make that a Patreon and, get some of our listeners to join us and give people time to like, rewatch the season, maybe kind of come back with more feedback. So I don't know, stay tuned.
And give folks a chance to sit in the box with us and talk shop about Walking Dead.
Yep. And the world beyond.
And the world beyond. And fear.
Yeah, all of it. But definitely just keep an eye on that. And we would like to thank our Patreon supporters, Clint McCullough and Lawrence Todd.
Yay.
Subscribe to us in Apple Podcasts or your podcast client of choice. And while you're there, give us a rating or review. You can also leave us a review at podchaser.com. There you can actually rate individual episodes, or you can rate the whole podcast as a whole. So definitely go check it out. Remember to share our posts on Facebook and Twitter when we post them, or tell a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to get us new listeners. All right. Well, other places you can listen to us on the network. I know LT's been joining Brian over at Star Trek Discovery, but you can definitely go check out Brian covering season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. And I believe Ruthie is now back, that he got her power back after not having it for so long. But you can definitely go check them out over at StarTrekDiscoveryPodcast.com. They also have the Facebook group, and you can find that at Facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM Podcasts. They also have a Patreon that you can go check out over at patreon.com/Brian and Ruthie. All right, the next episode of Fear the Walking Dead, Season 6, Episode 8, which we don't know the title to or written or directed because it's not going to be happening until April. The Walking Dead World Beyond, Season 1, Episode 9, and it's called The Deepest Cut and In This Life. Did not find who was written by or directed by, but the description is there are a series of setbacks, someone makes a surprising discovery, a startling revelation casts everything in a new light, a divided group struggles to reunite, others set their sights on, and I got this from my YouTube TV, and it's like ... So I don't know, it's just too long because they're trying to put both of them together, but that was all I got. All right, well, so until next time, I'm Kyle.
And I'm Brian.
And I'm LT.
And this is Fear the Walking Dead Talk. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.